Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. And we are back and better than ever at the We're Not Famous podcast studio.
2026.
2026 is our third episode. We've been pretty good. 3 episodes.
We've been pretty consistent, I would say.
Pretty consistent.
And we have some...
Hold on, Jay. You always like to jump into things.
I'm ready. That's how I am, Sam. You know, I'm focused.
You are ready. But today we have an incredibly amazing guest. Family. He reverses when he converses. He's got the gift of gab. He's been on David Letterman, Johnny Carson, Ellen DeGeneres, and so many more. He is my own uncle. We have the famous. We could say we're not famous, but this guy, David, he's a little bit famous. We have the famous David Fuhrer in the studio with us today.
Thank you.
Yay!
And David, he didn't expect to ever be able to get you on this podcast, just to let you know. If he's never told you that, he's really excited.
It's a great honor to be on the We're Not Famous podcast. It truly is.
Love it, love it, love it.
I've watched this guy grow and do so many creative things, and I enjoy all of your other podcasts, so it really is an honor to be here.
We appreciate that, for sure.
Thank you.
Well, David, we like to start off with the origin story. I did some research. You're an entrepreneur, American inventor, a entertainer. There's a lot of history that I'd like to kind of go over and learn more about you, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Can we kind of start off, how were you as a kid?
You know, I would say I was a very outgoing kid, and I always had, I think, a positive energy. Mm-hmm. You know, I was always looking to have fun with whatever I did.
Hobbies? Did you play sports?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a lifelong fan of both playing and watching baseball. That's always been my favorite sport. I love basketball too, but baseball has always been number one.
Yeah, Robert is more of a basketball, what I learned.
My dad. Yeah. Did you play sports with my dad growing up at all?
Yeah, we always played.
Was that a competitive type of environment between you two?
Well, he was always much bigger and stronger than me as my older brother, so he used to, kind of destroy me. But I tried hard.
Got it. Did you have any aspirations to play professional baseball at all?
That was always a lifelong dream. Okay. And there was actually only one reason that I didn't play in the major leagues. I don't know if Sam told you that.
No, Please tell me.
Oh yeah, I didn't have the ability. But if I did, I would have been great.
And he would have played in the NBA too.
Yeah, there were 2 reasons why I didn't play in the NBA. I didn't have the height or the ability.
Got it. So in high school, what were other hobbies other than sports at all that you were pursuing?
No, I mean, I always had some hobbies, but sports was always a big one for me. And no, nothing in particular. I built model rockets as a kid, and I've always liked to do entrepreneurial things. So I always had some kind of business activity going.
Who exposed you to the whole business idea and entrepreneurship?
You know, I think it was just sort of in our DNA in the family. So I think my dad always talked about growing up the importance of working hard and building good relationships with people. And that was something I heard my whole life. As part of, he had a lot of advice. One that we always talk about is he always said, protect your health and your reputation.
Protect your health and your reputation. Sam, do you live by that?
I protect my health. My reputation's been ruined long ago. No, yes, of course I live by that. But okay, so I mean, for most people watching this, well, actually not, but most people who know David knows he's got this unique ability to speak backwards, which I want to hear you say it. But when did you learn that you could do this?
So for my whole life, I've been known as the guy who talks backwards because I was born with this unusual ability. I like to say ability, not a talent, but where I can hear any word, sentence, and I can say it backwards instantly, exactly the way that it's spelled. So it's something
How
that...
could you say Jernavis?
Savan Reg.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Savan Reg. And you'd be Mass. Yeah. Sam is Mass.
Laugh Factory.
Hagual Yarotkaf. So Hagual would be laugh, Hgual, and factory is Yarotkaf.
amazing.
So, yeah, I can, without any delay, anything that I hear, I can see it almost as if it's written on an imaginary blackboard, and I can say it backwards.
Michael Jordan.
That'd be Liaquim Nadroj. Liaquim is Michael, and Nadroj is Jordan.
Wow.
Give him one more.
Yeah, pick a sentence. It can be a simple sentence or a complex sentence.
I have great work ethic.
I Iva Teerg Krau Kith. All right. I as I, have is Eva, E-V-A-H. Great was Teerg, T-A-E-R-G, and work was Krau, and ethic was Sitte. You know, it's a little bit hard to say with the E-T-H, but
It's amazing.
You know, we should have like a secret code language where we communicate like that. You know?
yeah, right now it's like a very lonely secret code. I'm the only one who can speak it.
Have you ever met anyone else who speaks it?
No, not with the speed that I can do it. I actually have a Guinness World Record as the world's fastest backwards talker. Since, with the internet, of course, I've seen other people that can do it, but nobody at the same speed that I can do it.
And you still hold the record?
I do.
That's amazing.
But my question is, did you know at a young age that you could do this?
I used to call my friends by their names backwards when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and everybody was amazed at how quickly I can do it. And then I went off to summer camp in the Adirondack Mountains, a wonderful place called Camp Eagle Cove. And one of the older campers suggested that I get on the stage during the talent show. And I went up there and I sang the Star Spangled Banner backwards, and then I took words from the audience, and I won the talent show. And from that day forward, I was camp famous as the guy who talks backwards. Then when I got back home, I did that same act at school, and eventually doing it in college at Boston University, where I had a classmate that graduated and went on to work for David Letterman, and told the staff at the David Letterman show about my unusual ability. They had me come to New York, and that ended up getting me booked on the show.
What is the practice?
I never heard that whole story.
There's actually something more interesting about the story. Okay. And so I auditioned for them, and then I got booked, and they would fly me. I was living in Boston, and they would fly me to New York, put me in a beautiful hotel, and I got bumped from the show 7 times because I was booked as the last guest on the show, and I broke the record of being bumped more than any guest. So they kept running out of time.
2 Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah, that one is not exactly in the Guinness Book, but I had the David Letterman record. So it was so funny because he started doing a running joke on nights that I wasn't there, saying things like, "Oh, and we have David Fuhrer, the backwards talking guy here tonight, but he started a fight in the lobby." And he was using it as a running joke. And then eventually they brought me on and put me on as the first guest of the night.
Oh, wow. So would you tell all your friends, I'm going to be on Letterman tonight? And then they'd tune in, and then they'd say, we missed him.
That's exactly what was happening. But I was making a living because regardless of whether you're on or not, they had to pay you. So when I graduated college and I kept getting booked, I was getting paid. There was a union scale, and I don't remember, it was around $600.
And you say you were making a living, like, was that your full-time job?
No, I mean, I had another job, but it was I was funny because I kept getting these $600 paychecks.
Free trips to New York.
And a free trip to New York, and I'd go to the green room, and I would meet all kinds of incredible celebrities who were also the other guests on the show.
And you majored in filmmaking.
I did, yeah. I went to...
Jay really does his research, huh?
Very good. I went to Boston University, and I was a broadcasting and film major, and I always dreamed of making films, but never did until now. But that's
we're gonna get into that
part of the story.
Right, for sure. And then in college, were you speaking backwards? Were you practicing daily? Was this something that you've always kind of incorporated?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that I practice. It's something I can do naturally.
You don't practice it at all.
I never practice, and I don't even think about it unless you ask me. I mean, I will be aware if I'm driving and I see a sign and it's something funny backwards. Just the other day, I was in LA and I was driving in the valley, and there's a road called Moore Park. And I looked up and I was thinking, oh, that's crap room backwards. So, but I'm not generally conscious of the backwards thing unless somebody says do it. And then I kind of flip my brain.
Interesting. Okay, and then what was your first job outside of college?
So I had two jobs outside of college. One was I was working at a radio station where they called me the producer, but I was the call screener. So it was a 4-hour nightly radio talk show with a guy named Hubert Jessup, and he would talk about current events. And I was the guy who would answer the phone, and people wanted to talk to Hubert and then determine who would get on the air. And that was a lot of fun. And during the day, I was working for the NBC affiliate in Boston, WBZ Television, and working on different shows. And so I was, it was basically radio and television. I was working very hard before I decided to move to Los Angeles.
And what, I guess, what took you to Los Angeles?
So we had a family friend who was the president of one of the big talent agencies. It was called Triad Artists. Ultimately, they were acquired by William Morris, but at the time, Triad was one of the major talent agencies in Hollywood. Okay. And he gave me the opportunity to come out and work in the mailroom. And so I went out to California. I didn't have a place to live. I stayed with relatives, and I started in the mailroom. And it was an incredible experience. And I found myself moving from Boston, and suddenly I was in the center of Hollywood, meeting movie stars and, listening to these agents make these huge deals.
Mm-hmm. But I have a question. You were on TV before that on the David Letterman show.
Yeah, I was on David Letterman, and then I was on the Johnny Carson show as well,
so
the Tonight Show.
You were the talent. And now you were going to represent talent. Did you kind of wish that you were the talent when you were?
No, I mean, I never had aspirations to really be talent, so to speak. I mean, I was more, I would say, a civilian guest with an unusual ability. But I didn't have aspirations to be an actor or a comedian or anything like that. But what was amazing is when I got to go on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. He's a legend, and
did you watch him growing up, Johnny Carson?
They just had a great documentary on him too.
Oh yeah, the guy was phenomenal, and I never realized how phenomenal he was until I had the opportunity to go on Letterman and many other shows, and then eventually The Tonight Show. Because when I was on The Tonight Show, I was so nervous, and I remember I was behind the curtain where you walk out, and right during the commercial break before I came out, my lips started going,
right.
And I thought it was noticeable, and they pulled the curtain back, and I see Johnny sitting there at that desk, and he gives me a wink and an A-OK, like, I'm going to take care of you, kid.
I got you. Wow.
And then you hear the music, and the commercial break ends, and they'd say you walk out, and they call it home base, where you sit in that chair next to the host. I'm in home base right now in your seat. Right. So the commercial ends, and I walk out there, and I sit down at home base, and Carson just took over. It was like the whole thing was over in a flash. I was on for quite a long time, I think about 12 minutes. But he was so funny, and he was so intuitive. He asked all the right questions, and then he made jokes whenever I said something, or he made a face, he'd go like, and the audience would roar, and it made me look like I was funny. Mm-hmm. So when I came off that show, people were going, "Oh my God, you were so funny. You're incredibly funny. It was amazing." And I didn't really do anything. Carson was so amazing that he just brought that out of a guest. He made you look good.
Yeah, but a lot of people do bomb on these shows.
Yeah, but not with him.
Really?
Yeah, he built people up. I noticed because when I was on David Letterman, he was a great host and he was a very funny guy, but he would kind of be funny at my expense. Right. And I had to stand up on my own to make that segment fun and interesting because I wasn't really getting help from him.
Do you put any prep work in before you go on these shows? Like, do you think I want to say this, I want to say that? Or
yeah, I mean, you always think about what you want to say or not say, and they always do pre-interviews with a producer, and so you kind of have an idea. I mean, in my case, they're always going to ask the pretty basic questions, how long have you been able to do this? And they're going to have me do it. Mm-hmm. And, I just have to be prepared if they're going to throw something at me that I'm not ready for, or if something's going to sound like an obscenity. Yeah. On Carson, I did George Carlin's 7 Dirty Words That You Can't Say on Television. And Johnny, roared. He thought that was so funny, and he thought the censors were going to have a terrible time with it. But I don't know if people are familiar with them, but it's Tisufkanak, I can't remember it. I don't think we can say it. But it was 7 dirty words you weren't allowed to say on television. But I remember there was another show I was on in Dallas. It was a local morning show, and the host of the show was this woman, and she suddenly said to me on air live, she said, "Hey, can you say my name backwards? My name is Marlena." And backwards, that was anal ram. So I had I didn't hesitate, and I went anal ram, and she started laughing so hard they had to go to a commercial break. But
oh my God!
Did these interviews come after you broke the record in 1989? You recited, I think, an album. What was it? Queen's album?
That's right. So I was on most of the shows prior to that, and then I was on a lot of shows after that. But in 1989, I broke the Guinness World Record by doing Queen's album called A Night at the Opera. And I did the entire album backwards, and I did it on Entertainment Tonight. So they had representatives from Guinness there. And then I had a friend named John Machida, who was the world's fastest forwards talker. He was famous from the old Federal Express commercial. It was what put Federal Express on the map. It was an incredible commercial. And you can see it on YouTube. Anybody who wants to look it up. It was John Machida, fast talker on Federal Express. It's an amazing commercial. And John and I met at a charity event, and he was already in the Guinness Book of Records. And then he introduced me to the folks there. And I had to follow certain, parameters, and we had to have witnesses, and we did it on television. And then I broke the record, and we ended up on the same page in the Guinness Book.
Wow! Do you get a what do you receive for breaking the record?
That's a great question. So you receive basically a certificate, which I have hanging on my wall in my office, and that's all you get. So, and then you get the bragging rights to say that you have a Guinness World Record.
That's crazy.
Well, I have a question. Did your life change at all after you started going on national TV? Because it's not like it is now, where there's, the TV hosts don't have the same type of ratings that they used to, because it used to be the only game in town. Like, did you like start to get recognized on the street?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, now we have hundreds of channels and streamers and so on. But at that time, there were very few channels, and everybody watched The Tonight Show. So that's one of the reasons I was so nervous to be on it. I knew that every single person in America may be watching this show.
Did you ever see The King of Comedy?
Yeah, it was a great, great film.
Yeah.
But I would say my life did change at that time. Not to become a celebrity from it, but to be known for having this ability. And it opened doors, frankly, and it actually opened the door to my career in the toy industry.
I was going to ask you about that. How did you transition to?
Well, because right now he's working in the mailroom.
Yeah, so I had been on the shows, which was always a point of interest to people. They always wanted to hear me talk backwards and so on. And then my older brother, Bob, Sam's dad, was in the toy industry, and he was working for a company that worked with inventors to place products with toy companies. And I went to visit him at Toy Fair in 1987. Okay. And while I was in his office, there was an inventor there who's a magician, inventor, a guy named Mark Ducati. And Mark is a brilliant and innovative guy, and he had seen me on television, and Mark said, "Hey, that would be a great marketing hook for a board game, a backwards talking board game." And me just being eager to do something with it, because I had no way to really, let's say, monetize it or do anything. It was just a fun thing that I was doing on television. I jumped at that opportunity because it was such a personal expression to create a game that was based on talking backwards. So Mark and I worked on this game, and eventually we came up with a working prototype that we tested with people. And Bob, my brother Bob, was an agent, and he helped us place it with Random House. Random House at the time was in the game business. They're, of course, as people know, a large publisher of books, but they were in the game business. And they made it their lead promotional game in 1989. And they sent me on a media tour where I was on TV commercials, which you can also see that commercial on YouTube. It has subtitles. I say everything backwards. Oh, wow. And we launched a game that was called Backwards, like, words, WORDS. And the game, was moderately successful, not a huge hit, but enough as a, young single guy. I made a little bit of money, and it was enough for me to quit my job at the talent agency. I had so much fun creating a product. It was something that I had been doing since early childhood, was coming up with entrepreneurial ideas. And then here was a real life opportunity to license a game to a toy company. And it was such a great experience because I got to be in the commercials. I got to travel to Australia and to the UK and travel around the United States on a media tour and have my own game. So I decided to try it full time.
What's interesting to me is like the same business model exists today, where we see with all these influencers who get a lot of fame, and then they try to figure out what product,
brand
to,
deals
like a Logan Paul. Oh, we'll do an energy drink with him, or a Mr. Beast. Like David was kind of a pioneer of monetizing his influence.
You wrote a book too. Right?
Yeah, I did. I wrote a book as well a few years after that. So I wrote a book about word games and talking backwards and other secret languages. And I did that with a guy named Marvin Silbermans. And Marvin,
shout out Marvin.
Yeah, and Marvin, a great story about Marvin. So I knew Marvin from the toy industry, and Marvin was a game inventor. And in his spare time, he was sending jokes to Hollywood, to Jay Leno, who at the time, Johnny Carson was getting ready to retire, and Jay Leno was his guest host. When Johnny would stop working 5 nights a week, he cut it back to 4 nights a week, and Jay was hosting 1 night a week. Or if Johnny took a vacation, Jay was hosting. And Marvin just randomly was sending him jokes, and one day he gets a call from Jay Leno, and Jay says, "Hey, I like that joke. I want to buy it from you for $50. And he gave Jay a fax number and said, he gave Marvin a fax number, and anytime Marvin had a joke, he would send to Jay Leno. Jay started buying his jokes, and then eventually Johnny retired. Jay Leno took over The Tonight Show. He calls Marvin up, who's basically trying to invent toys and games. He's living in New Jersey. He's doing magic at kids' birthday parties, and he gets this call from Jay Leno saying, "I want you to move to Hollywood. You're going to be one of my head writers on The Tonight Show." Wow. And Marvin moved out to California with his family and suddenly started on NBC. And I remember him telling me the story. He sat down with Jay on that set next to that desk his very first day. And he said he started to cry because he couldn't believe like it was a dream come true. And
you played a part in that.
Yeah, well, so the reason I brought up Marvin, sorry, we got off track a little bit, was because Marvin is a very funny guy and he's a great writer, and we partnered together and he helped me write this book. And the book came out, and we sold a lot of copies to young readers.
Absolutely. Transitioning back into the toy industry, what was the next toy that you were part of?
Yeah, so I had mentioned earlier John Machida, the world's fastest talker. So I had met him at a charity event around the time that the Backwards game came out, and because of the success of the Backwards game, I said to John, why don't we do a fast-talking tongue twister game? And you can be the spokesperson for that. And he loved the idea, and we worked on it, and we created a game called Motormouth. And there was a toy company that's no longer out there called Tiger. And Tiger loved the game, and they licensed it from us. When I say license, what happens with an invention in the toy industry is a company makes an agreement to sell your product and pay a royalty. And they made that their lead promotional game. And John Machida, the fast talker, became their spokesperson like I did for the Backwards game. And so I was now officially in the business. I was 2 for 2. I thought it was easy to invent something and sell it to a company. I didn't realize how hard it really was.
And you're living in Hollywood now.
Yeah, so I'm living, I moved out to Los Angeles from Boston, and I'm living out there, and I'm just having a good time creating products and pitching them to toy companies and hoping for a big hit.
Was it fun living in LA when you, I guess, in your late 20s, early 30s?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was, it was a place that I always kind of saw myself living. I went out on vacation when I was young, and I was so amazed at, just the feeling that I had out there. It just felt like where I belonged.
Yeah.
And so I took the risk. I remember my dad saying, look, if that's what you're feeling, you try it. The worst thing that happens is you come home in 6 months or a year. And off I went to work in the mailroom for $275 a week.
It's amazing.
And so, I went out there and I made very little money, but it was a lot of fun. And then I started inventing things and had some early moderate success, enough to, make a living. And then I kept trying new ideas, most of which, ended up in my closet or in the trash bin. But until I was lucky enough in 1993 to have a big hit, which was called the Nerf Vortex Football.
Okay. Yep.
And that, in many ways, changed my life. So
was the Nerf something? Was the like? How do you come up with an idea for the Vortex?
Well, it was the whole idea at the time is I had this idea to work on aspirational sports concepts.
Right.
I was thinking, what are things that kids want to do that they can't ordinarily do,
like dunk a basketball,
hit a home run, dunk a basketball, jump higher, whatever it is. And one of those ideas was to throw a long bomb with a ball. I never could throw a football to this day, I can't throw a football properly.
I'm the same.
And it's very awkward for me. And I was working with another inventor, and we were playing with a whole bunch of ideas. And one day in my office, I had a prototype. We had this football, a Nerf football, and we had drilled a hole through the center. So it had a big hole, and we put a reed mechanism, like a playing card, something that like what kids would put in their bike tire. And it made a fluttering sound. And we were throwing this ball around, and we were calling it the noisy football. But I had a Nerf javelin, which was this big foam javelin. And one day in my office, I stuck the javelin inside the hole of that big giant football. And it was cool. It was like this giant lawn dart. And we started throwing that around, and we realized, this is an idea. This is a product. And I had these neighbor kids who lived next door, and I would go out and throw it with them, and then we would, play with the size and the weight. Yeah. We kept making new prototypes, and eventually we had something that we thought was special. And we pitched it. I went out and pitched it to 23 toy companies, all of whom rejected it. And I thought, okay, well, this is not a good idea. I loved the product. It was a passion project for me, so I didn't give up on it. But I thought nobody was going to buy it. And I remember getting a letter from Mattel that said, kids want to play with a real football. They don't want a novelty flying toy.
Right.
So it found its way back into a shoebox in my closet with my other failed inventions. And then I went off to the Tokyo Toy Fair. And this was like 92. Okay. And I remember I couldn't afford to go. But my dad, again, he always gave good advice. And he said, look, if this is something that you want to do, you want to be a successful inventor, you have to go where the decision makers of the industry are. And at the time, the Tokyo Toy Fair was one of the most important industry events. Every president of every toy company would go, and they would all stay in the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo. And so he said, you should go to the Imperial. You should, be sitting there at 5 p.m. when people are having drinks and get to know everybody. And I couldn't afford to go, but I found a way to get there. I bought a cheap ticket. I think I stayed in a hostel or something. Wow. And then I would walk over to the Imperial Hotel. And I found out that there was a boat ride dinner that was hosted by the Japanese Toy Association, actually by a toy newspaper over there. And they invited all overseas guests to come on this boat ride and have this dinner. And I was randomly seated across from a gentleman named John Barber. And John was an executive at a small toy company in Northern California called Odds On. And they were famous for a product that they made called the Koosh Ball. And it was like many of you guys, it was like a rubber band ball. And what they had done really uniquely is they got distribution everywhere. Like most toy companies were focused on Toys R Us or Walmart or Target, but they went out and said basically every mom and pop store in the nation had this Koosh Ball. It didn't matter whether it was a toy store or not, you found that product. And so John, I remember he asked me a question that, like I said, how this product may have changed my life in many ways. He asked me a question that was I would say was an instrumental moment of life. I call these acorn moments, what I say to people, that there's moments in life that might seem insignificant at the time, but they turn out to be very significant in the trajectory of your life. It might be meeting a spouse or whatever. But in this case, John looks across the table. He had a Scottish accent. And he said, you're an inventor. He said, is there one product that you know is great? That's the one I want to see. And I said, John, there's one. And I said, I've shown it around and everybody's passed on it, but I know it's great. And he said, what is it? And I said, well, it's a ball and it's a unique ball. And he said, I want to see that. And so a couple of days later, we were back. I was back in Los Angeles. He was up in Northern California. And he followed up with me. He called me and he said, that product you told me about, he goes, I want to see it. And I put it in a box and I FedEx it up to his office in Northern California, the Odds On office. And he literally calls me the next day and he said, we love it. And he said, can you come up here tomorrow, the next day, and meet with us? And we love this product. And I did. So I got on an airplane, I flew up, and I sat in a little conference room where there were about 5 people. And then we went out in the parking lot, we threw this prototype around. And they said, we're going to do it. We're going to license it. And then it was very different than today, where companies are very big and they're very bureaucratic and they have to go through levels and levels of decision making. It was a bunch of entrepreneurs sitting around a table. They knew in their gut that it was a good product, as I did, and they made a deal with me on the spot. Wow. And I was so excited and happy but I was, I didn't know if it'd be successful. It's a kind of a small company, and I was just happy to see it come out. And I really didn't know what was going to happen. And then, to John Barber's credit, and I will always be grateful to him, he took what was a great prototype and a really designed product that worked well, but he perfected it. He said, let's put it through wind tunnel tests at Stanford University. Wow. And then once they had sort of the optimum weight and shape and so on, they then went out and hired John Elway, who was the quarterback of the Denver Broncos at the height of his career. Wow. When he was a superstar, and made a deal with him to be the spokesperson for the football. And then they launched it. They did a TV commercial. Again, it's on YouTube. It's the coolest commercial where you can throw this ball. It looks like it's going a mile. And
I know this.
And they launched the product. And I remember I was just hoping. I was living with a roommate, and I was barely had any money. And I was just hoping that they would sell a few. And I remember just getting that first royalty check and expecting very little. And I opened it up, and it was, it was a fair amount of money. And I was
like a life-changing amount.
Amazing.
I mean, I wouldn't say on the spot. It was life-changing to me because any amount was life-changing. I had no money. I literally had trouble paying my rent that month, and then I got a chunk of money, and then it began, a quarterly payment that has gone on now for 32 years. So Odds On eventually was acquired by Hasbro, and that's how it became the Nerf Vortex Football.
Okay. What was the original name?
It was just called the Vortex Football, and Odds On was the company, but then Hasbro owned the brand of Nerf. And that's, obviously a very well-known, well-beloved brand by kids. And so when they acquired the Odds On company, they took the they took the Vortex Football and they branded it under Nerf, and it became the Nerf Vortex. So there were knockoffs that came out all over the place. There were copy products, even in dollar stores. But the kids always wanted the Nerf Vortex. That it became the best one, the one that everybody wanted.
And it's being sold, and so now you have a product that people recognize, And I remember, because, I was a little kid when this happened. I was around, actually. I remember it.
Yeah, you should be.
You would take it to, like, Venice Beach and have people throw it on the beach.
Yeah. So, what I used to do is when they were getting ready to launch the product, they would send me all the defective ones where the foam wasn't quite right, but they still worked really well. And I used to take them in a giant trash bag. Like I'd have 100 of them and I'd hang them over my shoulder like Santa Claus with a sack. And I would walk up and down the beach in Southern California and Venice and Santa Monica and Manhattan Beach. And I would just hand them out. And they had the whistles built in.
Oh, yeah.
And then so all of a sudden you'd start hearing, and everybody would look to see what that was, and you see this ball just flying everywhere. And it was sort of this, ground level marketing that I was just handing them out and getting people to try the product.
Right.
And and I learned a lot from that product because what I found is that everybody liked the product, whether you were male or female or young or old, and it made me really think about products differently in terms of demographics because I was working on a lot of things that were very nichey, and then I realized, well, the best products and the best chance for success as an inventor is to create something where you have the widest demographic possible.
David said something interesting when he was telling that story that I wanted to follow up on, is that you said that you consulted with your dad, my grandfather, and said, I want to be an inventor, and he advised you to go to Tokyo and go to this and go to the event, or go to the conference. But was there any, like, being a toy inventor is not like a conventional career path. When you decided to do that, did your dad have any, maybe you should do something else? Like,
well, he, not really. I mean, I was inspired by my brother Bob, Sam's dad, who was working in the business. I probably would not have known that was a path forward, but I saw him working with inventors and having success placing products. So I knew that there was the opportunity, we had the relationships.
Right.
And that was very helpful. Right. You could have good ideas, and the ideas are only as good as your ability to execute them. So a lot of people have come up to me for years and always saying, I have an idea. And what you have to do when you have an idea is you have to build it. You have to prototype it somehow. And then you have to have a path forward, what you're going to do with it. Where's it going to go? And through Bob, I knew that I was targeting specific toy companies that had an infrastructure in place to buy inventions. Right. It wasn't just this random thing, but yeah. But as far as my dad goes, I didn't have, like, I wasn't going to be a lawyer and or a plumber or whatever it is. I didn't have a specific path forward. I was always just kind of an entrepreneurial kid with some sales ability,
right,
and good ideas. And as soon as I learned that there was a way, that's all I wanted to do. It was the most exciting thing. It was the American dream. Like, you can literally create something and place it with a company, and they're going to pay you for it. It's incredible.
Right.
Most of the time, it fails. Most products and most new ideas fail for one reason or another. It's like a minefield. And I got very lucky that I had one that hit.
Yeah. I mean, another quick, Jay, I know you have some questions, but I just have another question. Is like, so you were originally trying to work in Hollywood, and you were on, all these shows, and then you were in the mailroom with movie stars, but now your life takes another path and you're in the toy industry. Did you kind of wish you had one foot in the door in that world at all? Yeah.
I didn't have like a clear idea of what I wanted to do. And I think it's a lot more stressful today for people. They're not sure what they want to do, or, we have AI and all this stuff. But at the time I was just kind of doing whatever opportunity I saw. I always had a great situational awareness. Like, if I saw an opportunity here, I'd pivot. And just sudden you do that. You have that in you too. You have that in your blood. And it doesn't always work out when you work on things, which we all know. We all have that experience. But if you're like that and you can stick to it and you can survive, you're going to hit here and there. And I didn't have a direction. I went out there thinking I was going to work in Hollywood. And the truth is it was very exciting at the beginning, but I didn't really like the culture at that time of the people that I was working with. I didn't enjoy that job as much as I thought I would.
Right.
It was exciting at the beginning because I was meeting movie stars and going to movie premieres, and I was, seeing a lot of exciting things. But something about it didn't feel right. But when I got to control my own destiny, like work on my product and pitch my product, it felt right. And it was really exciting for me when somebody would actually buy it and want to put it onto the market.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 sons, correct?
I have 2 sons, yeah.
2 sons. Do you believe any of them have the same desire, passion, determination as you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different. They work in my older son, Daniel, works in a more conventional field in real estate, but yeah, he's very business oriented. So it's maybe not as entrepreneurial yet, but we don't know what the future holds. But he's been fortunate enough to get a great job and to learn a tremendous industry. And my younger son, Maddie, is working for me now in comedy, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. And he does, yeah, I think he's got a lot of the same skill set that I had. And he's doing all different kinds of things in comedy now.
I want to go back to the toys real quick.
Yeah.
Also, Mr. Fuhrer, you just made his day. I'm going to let you know this now. No, I'm going to say it live because you compared yourself. You compared him to yourself with the same type of personality and things. This guy's turning red. Anyway, let's keep moving. There's 2 toys I want to ask you about. The Twisty Pets.
Yeah.
And also the Guitar Hero Air Guitar Rocker.
Yeah.
You won an award for the Twisty Pets.
Yeah. So I've been fortunate enough to have a whole bunch of awards and toys. And I would say that they're all collaborative. Like when I say winning awards, that's always there's been nothing that I've done without the help of talented partners. And Twisty Pets, which you mentioned, is again one of my favorite products of all time. And that was an idea that was generated by an inventor named Richard Kimbrough. Okay. And Richard came to me with an idea many years ago of it was like balloon animals. He said, what if we made bracelets that you can bend and twist like a balloon animal and turn them into characters? And I was like, that's a cool idea. Mm-hmm. And we made prototypes. Richard made the first prototypes out of wood. And
wood?
They were like little sculpted wood beads. Mm-hmm. And then they would look like a bracelet, and then you would bend and twist them a certain way, and then they would turn into a little dog or a horse or an elephant. Mm-hmm. And it was such a cool little idea that we developed it, made them really beautiful, made them look like beautiful jewelry in one half, and then when you bent and twist them, they became these super cute little animals. And it was a long story, but we were able to license it to a toy company called Spin Master, and it ended up becoming a big hit.
But it's kind of interesting because I kind of had a front row seat to the whole Twisty Pets because I was living with David when this happened. But there's some parts that mirror the Vortex story, because Twisty Pets was not a hit at first. It had come out on the market and it didn't do well. And then you were persistent in pitching it to Spin Master, and I remember one of the high level executives saying something like, girls, they want the real thing when it comes to jewelry. When it comes to tattoos, earrings, they want the real thing. They don't want mock-ups. And you had the vision that this could.
Yeah, I mean, so Twisty Pets originally came out. It wasn't called Twisty Pets. It was called Bizou, and it had. It was more of an activity toy where kids had to assemble it together and then learn how to twist it and take it apart. So it was a little bit of a complex marketing concept. It was a great product, but it was hard to communicate that product in a few seconds to a child or to a parent. So it had a small run on the market. It wasn't particularly successful, but I always felt very strongly like it wasn't done quite right. And so I took it back to the drawing board with Richard Kimbrough, the one who generated the original idea. And then I found another designer, inventor named Rob Schuyler. And shout out to Rob. And together we developed this product the way that I always envisioned it. And then we went back to Spin Master, and they already said, well, this didn't do well. It's, we're not going to relaunch it. And I begged and pleaded, and I said, listen, if you just give me the opportunity to pitch it to the buyers myself and share my vision instead of it being filtered through other lenses, give me a chance, please. And so one of the senior executives, like you had mentioned, it wasn't that kids want the real thing. They just said that jewelry toys never have done well. It was just one of those things that, people have this idea, well, it never did well. But they never did well until they do well. And then everybody wants to do. So they were open-minded enough to say, I'll tell you what, it's going to be Toy Fair. We're going to have buyers from Walmart and Target and all the big stores. If we have time when they see our product line, you can show them this product, but you have about 30 seconds to pitch it. So I literally set up a little folding table in their showroom with a sheet over all our prototypes. And then whenever the buyer was finished seeing the big presentation from Spin Master, if there was time, they would come over to my little table and I would pitch it as, here's something we're working on. We want to get your feedback. And I would do a quick 30-second pitch. And one after another, each buyer was going, hey, I really like that. I think that's special. So eventually, Spin Master decided to do a test in some cities on the East Coast early in the spring, just to see. So they did a small production run. They put it at retail, and the product did really well. And they still weren't convinced. They were saying, well, it's in the spring and it's on its own, but once up against competition in the fall, we don't know that it's going to do that well. So they did a sort of a larger test in the fall, and again, it just blew out of the stores. And that led to a full launch the following year, and the product became hugely successful. And then it got derailed by the pandemic because it was a collectible toy, and there weren't, we call it pester power when a child's in the store with their parent pulling on their pant leg going, I want to have that. Or they're at school, at classes, and they're sharing toys with their friends. But so after the pandemic, that product died, and now it's back again.
It's back again.
It's back again.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's just been relaunched, and it's selling well.
Wow.
And you've licensed more than, I think, 300 products?
Yeah, I've done probably about 350 approximately products that I've actually licensed to companies. I've worked on a couple of thousand. And out of those 300 or so, there's only been a handful that have been successful.
Like what percentage do you think?
Amazing. Yeah.
Well, it's a very small percentage. I would say under 10.
So that's about 1%. Because 9 would be 1%.
Yeah. And I've had a very good track record of placing products with companies.
Okay.
But again, I always say everything is like a minefield. Everything has to go right. It has to be lightning in a bottle for something to be successful.
Do you think it's kind of like either it's a massive hit or it's like the toy industry is an industry of hits. Like it needs to be massively successful or it's not really.
Yeah, I mean, these days...
there's no base hits. Really.
Yeah, I mean, these days, people used to say, it could be a double or a single or whatever. But now if it's not a home run... Yes, because what's happened is there's been consolidation of companies and consolidation of retail. So there's 3 places selling toys on a mass level, and it's Walmart, Target, and Amazon. And if something is not a hit, they don't need it. So, Walmart, it's profit per square inch. And if right out of the gate, if that product's not selling, it's not going to stay on the shelf. And once it's marked down... then there's a trickle effect across the board. So that's when I talk about the minefield, everything has to go right. You have to get you have to first get it to the market. Then you have to have amazing distribution, meaning it has to be in all the stores where it needs to be. Then the marketing has to be timed just right. And the communication of that marketing message has to be clear to the consumer so that they actually demand and want the product. And then your sell-through has to be strong. That product, if it's sitting on the shelf longer than it should, it's going to get marked down. So everything has to go right. And the toy companies are big now. They're big conglomerates, and things are brand oriented. It's not an item business. When I started, Toys R Us would basically sell everything, and things had a chance to be successful. Now it's not like that. It has to be big. It has to be line extendable into a brand
you said
concept.
something earlier that you pitched the Vortex to 23 toy companies.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure there are 23 toy companies, but you really want to get it in with one of the big.
Yeah, as an inventor, what I learned along the way is that your chances for success are much greater if it's one of the bigger companies that have also an infrastructure in place to work with inventors and to pay royalties. A lot of smaller companies, you can do well if they're entrepreneurial and they sell a lot of the product. But your chances, again, with the bigger companies, they're going to have marketing dollars, they're going to have distribution in the major retailers, and you're going to get your best shot.
Right. But what I think we're kind of getting at is that the toy industry has changed a lot over the last 50 years. But since he started 30 years ago, 35 years ago, whatever, that recently you kind of transitioned out of it. All right.
Yeah, I transitioned out of it, not because I didn't love the toy industry, but again, as I talked about earlier, I've never had a clear plan. I've just, followed my gut, and I've always been somewhat entrepreneurial. And I met many years ago a gentleman named Jamie Masada, who was the founder of the Laugh Factory, which is one of the most iconic comedy brands in the world. And I met him through a mutual friend, and I was hiking just before the pandemic in a place called Franklin Canyon with my wife. And I ran into Jamie, who I hadn't seen in a long time, and we started chatting, and that inspired this new friendship of this person I had met years earlier. And I started seeing him in the mornings on my hike, and we started chatting. And Jamie was intrigued by what I had done in the toy industry. And he, very interesting guy, came from Iran at the age of 14. He didn't speak any English. And when he was 19, he started the Laugh Factory. Wow. And but he always said to me, I have learning disabilities, and I've built this business, and I'm not sure what to do with it. And I kept saying, well, Jamie, you have this incredible, iconic brand. You have relationships with all the top comedians in the world. You have these locations that with all this equipment of recording and so on. It's what an opportunity to build this into like a global comedy brand. And he said, well, why don't you join me? Why don't you be my partner? And we really got along very well. And I started giving him ideas for television and film and other things with the Laugh Factory branding. And we started having these discussions. And then eventually I just got serious. I was thinking, you know what, this would be a fun thing to try. I always did want to work in Hollywood. I always did want to make movies. I always loved comedy. And I thought, I'm going to try this. And so he and I made an agreement, and I joined the company 2 years ago. And in 2 years, we've transformed the Laugh Factory into something really unique and significant with a bunch of different business verticals that we're executing on now, which is, we're growing the footprint of the clubs into more locations. Our next one to open will be in Las Vegas on January 29th this month.
There used to be a Laugh Factory.
There was a Laugh Factory there in the Tropicana Hotel. Yeah. Okay. And when the Oakland A's moved to Las Vegas, the Tropicana was acquired to be torn down.
The Oakland Raiders.
No, the A's from baseball they're building a stadium. And they're going to be moving to Las Vegas, and they tore down the Tropicana, so we were left without a location. But we recently found a new location with a place called the Horseshoe, which used to be Bally's Hotel. It's part of Caesars Entertainment. Okay. And we're going to be relaunching a beautiful Laugh Factory in Las Vegas. So that's one of our business verticals is expanding Laugh Factory globally. It's the most well-known comedy brand in the world. Wow. We have a huge social media following of several million. And then we're also launched now a feature film division, and we just completed our first film called Toad, Toad, and that's going to be coming out in the spring
right?
or early summer of 2026, starring James Franco, Tiffany Haddish, Craig Robinson from The Office, Cat Williams, Howie Mandel, Bobby Lee, Caroline Ray, Cheech and Chong. It's a big cast, and it's a very, very crazy, funny movie. It's a stoner road trip comedy about two guys that have to transport a box of toads that have hallucinogenic properties, and they get exposed to the toad venom, and they have this hallucination adventure along the way.
Wow.
I want to ask you about that, but first I have a question. Is like, so people, they spend their whole lives trying to be comedians. They do like 15 years on the road, and you kind of just came in and became the president of, the biggest comedy brand in the world. Did you feel like you were accepted right away, or because I know you're not trying to be a comedian, but did you feel like there was any process of like getting the comedians to trust you?
Yeah, and it's still ongoing because I did come in without the relationships and experience and the heritage in the world of comedy, and I found that people were generally accepting. They liked the idea that I had a business background. Right. Not necessarily a comedy background, but that they like what I was doing. So I think people were wary at first,
Right.
Who's this newcomer into the comedy industry? But just like toys, it's a business of relationships. And if you treat the talent well and you create new opportunities for them, they came around very quickly to embrace me into their world. Because what we're doing now is we're opening it up from just a comedy club where we don't offer historically much different than down the road our competitors. In LA, it's the Comedy Store, the Improv. Comedians would come in, they get on our stage, they get paid, they move down the street, they go perform there. What we've created now is an ecosystem of comedy. So a comedian that works with the Laugh Factory has an opportunity now to be in our feature films, to do a podcast, to be in our streaming, to be in a part of our social media. Also, I took something from the toy world. I created a royalty payment program. One of the first things I learned coming into the business is that a lot of comics were upset that their content was being put on YouTube and other platforms, and people were monetizing off it, but they were not. So I just looked at it like the inventors in the toy industry. I said, well, why don't we just pay them and create a royalty program? And so when we get our payments from YouTube, from AdSense, we split that now with the comedians. So now they want to give us their content because they're making money when they sleep.
Are those significant payments? Do you make a lot of
They
money?
can be significant, but
over time,
they're not always. But even if it's $50, that's meaningful. People are a lot of comics are not making
breakfast.
unless you're really
coffee in LA.
unless you're really at the top of the game.
Yeah.
You're not making that much money. And the other point is it's just the right thing to do.
Right.
So from a relationship standpoint, people, this is what they do. They work hard. They write this content, they perform it, and then it can get stolen, it can be put online. So just by compensating people for their work. And then we won't post anything without permission. We record every show every night. The first thing I did is I put in state-of-the-art equipment in our clubs so that we are a content factory. And so when a comedian checks in now to do their set for the night, they tell us, do you want it recorded or not recorded? We won't post anything. I give them their set, whatever they need, they can post it all they want. They have our permission, and if we want something, we'll ask. And if they say no, it doesn't go up. If they say yes, we'll post it.
Right.
And a lot of the comics that do crowd work do want the things posted because that's not burning their content.
Right. And do you find similarities between working with inventors and working with comedians?
Yeah. It's just creative people.
Right.
That want to be treated properly.
Going back to becoming now a executive producer, was this the first movie you ever produced?
Yeah, it's the first. So I went to film school and always envisioned myself making movies, and then took the turn into the toy industry. At first, I went to LA. I thought I was going to work in the movie industry, and then I had the opportunity to create a product and invent. And I took that left turn and never came back. And now I'm in it. And I'm, for the very first time, I'm making movies, and we're making a great movie, a high-profile movie with a lot of very talented filmmakers that are part of this project, and it's just the beginning. So we're in the process of setting up distribution with a major studio, and we're going to launch Laugh Factory Presents is the name, kind of like National Lampoon, and we're going to develop independent, relatively low-budget comedies that are filled with funny people, and I'm going to make a lot of movies.
I can see. No, I can hear it already.
I have a question, because it's like, I know David pretty well. I lived with him for almost 5 years.
Right.
You don't strike me as a guy who's, I don't know, maybe you did, but ever did anything like Toad Venom or anything like that. How did you decide on this movie? Like,
I was looking for, just like toys, a great product. And I put the word out to some folks, creative people, and I said, we're looking for the right script. And I got a bunch of scripts sent to me, and I literally hate reading scripts.
Okay.
So I started glancing through things and synopsizing what they were about. And then I have an old friend named Brad Wyman. And Brad has made 55 movies. He's a very experienced filmmaker. And he called me up and he said, I have the project. You should look at this. It was called Toad. Okay. And he sent over the script, and I got on an airplane. I was flying somewhere, and I started reading it. And I started laughing so hard I was crying. I mean, I must have looked really foolish in this airplane, but it was so funny. I'd never read anything so funny, so unique, so inventive. And I thought, well, this could go down in comedy history as a classic. Right. And so I called Brad and I said, I would love to do this film, but you need money to make a movie. And we at the Laugh Factory don't have the funds to make film. Film's very expensive. But fortunately, once we attached our name to his project of Laugh Factory, which was a very powerful name, we were able to bring in some funding from some outside sources and get the film project off the ground, initially by attaching cast to it. Yeah. So I had built these relationships with a lot of these comics, and I started calling them up and going, hey, we're making a movie, would you want to be in the movie? And making offers to them. Right. And we went direct to talent. We bypassed, the agents and the managers and so on. And I literally, and also I don't know, coming in as an entrepreneur who doesn't really know the business, I didn't follow the usual protocols. I just I've always figured out, you just roll up your sleeves and you make stuff happen. That's how you get stuff done. A lot of people make plans and they write out plans and they do PowerPoints and stuff. That's not the way I operate. I was like, you just do it. You just do it.
Yeah.
And so first thing I did is picked up the phone, and once I got, a couple of key talent saying, yeah, I'll do it, when they read the script, that was easier to attract other talent to the project.
Yeah.
You started doing that after you found out what your budget was for the movie.
Well, I didn't even have a budget. I had together enough money that I knew I could attach the talent.
Great.
And I looked at it as chicken and egg. If I get the talent on board and I commit to them, then we can raise more money. And then that's exactly what happened.
I'm always interested in how people get money for movies. I don't know if you're okay talking about it, but did you go to who wrote the first check, or how do you pitch?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about who's specifically behind this project right now. But it was wealthy individuals who, the movie business is littered with people that wanted to be in the movie business and lost money. So I approached it in a very business-like manner. If we keep this budget really tight, and we make a great product, that these people are going to make their money back. Because I think what happens is movies are really bloated. People spend tens of millions of dollars. But my business model is we're going to make low price independent films that you can break even just on the deal if you make a good product. And again, everything comes out to a great product, which is the same way I focused on toys, like something that appeals to a wide demographic, and it has to be executed really well, which remains to be seen. I mean, I'm hoping we have a great product. You don't really know until it's completely done.
And is the business model to like make money in the theaters, or how do people make money on a movie?
Well, you make money through box office, through theaters. You make money by making separate deals with streamers. You make money by having international distribution. You make money by licensing and merchandising.
Right.
So there's a bunch of different opportunities to monetize. And then in a case like Toad, if it works, it's very brand extendable. It's a sequelable kind of a concept. So we can, build Toad into a big brand for the Laugh Factory and for our studio partner.
Can you share what the budget is on it?
Yeah, it's a roughly about $7 million.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Any big stars in the movie?
Yeah, he named a lot.
Yeah, so we have a lot of good people. I mentioned Tiffany Haddish, who's incredible. People may have seen her in Girls Trip and many other projects. And she also has a very close personal relationship with Jamie Masada, the founder of the Laugh Factory. He's like a father to her. So Tiffany's very much part of the Laugh Factory family, and she was the first to get on board. Craig Robinson, who was in The Office. Howie Mandel, who people know from, James Franco. Howie was incredible in this film. He is so funny. People don't think of him as a film star because they see him on TV at America's Got Talent or Deal or No Deal. Incredible in this film. And Bobby Lee, James Franco.
So you're wearing two hats. You are the CEO or president of the Laugh Factory.
Yep.
You're now the executive producer of a movie. What does your day look like?
Well, that's a great question. So, and it's really, I'm wearing, 20 hats because there's so many things going on with the Laugh Factory. First of all, we have 7 clubs with shows every night. So we're just managing day-to-day club operations. We have the film project, which I spend time on, not every day, but, when we were in production, I was on the set for a few hours during the day, or I'm on the phone because, part of being a producer is kind of assembling the elements to put the film together, whether you're bringing in money or casting it or, working with studio executives for distribution or just, figuring out how to solve a problem. Location, whatever it is. But, we had a lot of good people on that, and I was just overseeing that process. And as a newcomer, it was hard for me because I don't know how to do it. But I just always figure I have enough life experience, business, just do it. Just figure it out. But so that's part of my day-to-day. And then, it's just, there's employees. We're always dealing with employee stuff. We're doing social media. We're creating original content. I'm meeting with comedians, listening to their pitches of their ideas. It's just, it's just part of the process. Is you every day is a little bit different, and everything sort of comes to fruition at different times. So you're just kind of managing lots of projects, keeping lots of balls in the air. We also do a lot of charitable things. We just fed more than 2,000 people on Christmas and Thanksgiving at the Laugh Factory. Jamie Masada, the founder, when he started for 45 years now, he's been a very giving and charitable person, and he opens the doors of the Laugh Factory at no cost, no reservation, no ticket required. Anybody that doesn't have a place to go from all walks of life, whether you're homeless or you just don't like your family, whatever the reason is, you're welcome at the Laugh Factory. And so that was also a big initiative. It takes a lot to feed 2,000 people. And we opened the doors during the fires in LA last year. We raised money for the firefighters and for families that lost their homes. We're doing an event this January 31st. I made an agreement with a company called Perfect Game, and it's to raise money for kids that can't afford baseball equipment. I love baseball, I love comedy, so the two are coming together with this tremendous event where we're going to have Major League Baseball players and comedians at the Laugh Factory, and people are buying tickets. And the idea is that we're going to pay for travel baseball and equipment for any family that can't afford it for baseball. And we're getting a great turnout of professional baseball players. And that's organized by a gentleman named Dennis Gilbert, who's a famous agent, an insurance guy for professional sports.
David has great tickets to the Dodger games.
Okay.
When did you get those? So David sits in the dugout club at the Dodgers. Do you know what the dugout? Are you okay talking about that?
Sure.
I'm not familiar with it.
So the dugout club, Jay, you played professional basketball. You should know about this. Well, maybe David, you can explain. Well, the dugout club is like, there's box. Some people are in the box. Some people are, have good seats. Mm-hmm. But the dugout club is like, this is where all the A-listers go.
It's seats.
Yeah. You're right next to the dugout. You're right behind, and then the seats are right behind home plate. But there's this club where you could get. It's like it's a fine dining experience. And for me, I always say everything's free, but obviously David's paying for the tickets. Where you could get lamb chops. I might do an episode of Lamb with Sam over there. Okay. You get, fresh fish, fresh sushi, whatever. Yeah.
I mean, it's a fancy way to see a baseball game. And for me, I've been a lifelong baseball fan, and just the opportunity to sit close to the field and to hear the players talking and to see them just a few feet away. Mm-hmm. And I literally, and I'm trying not to lose this, I feel like I'm 12 every time I go to a baseball game. I'm so excited on game day. I literally run through the stadium like a 12-year-old. Wow. And I get this tremendous joy at bringing people to a Dodger game and giving them the opportunity to sit in these incredible seats. And because sometimes people say, I'm not a baseball fan, it's boring or whatever. And I say, it's not a baseball game necessarily, it's a baseball themed experience. And come out and enjoy it in a fun and fancy way. It's like, the food is great, you're up close. It's I feel grateful and fortunate that I have the opportunity to sit there, and that's, for me, is my great luxury in my life, is to be close to baseball players.
I have a question. Do you think that's helped you with your career, having these seats? Because I see you bringing some, because David, if you follow David on social media, you can see he's there with, I think you brought Jason Alexander and who's the host, Mario Lopez.
Yeah.
It kind of gives you something to offer these.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't play golf and things like that. So to take somebody to a baseball game is a great way to have time together. You've got 3 or 4 hours together of sitting and chatting and eating. And I think it has been good for my career, because it's a place, again, where relationships can be built. Right. While doing something just kind of fun and relaxing.
It's like a life experience for everyone.
Yeah, and because I've been fortunate enough to sit in this and be part of this club, I've been able also to meet a lot of interesting people that are down there.
Yeah, it's like I went once, and as I'm walking through, everyone in the stands is going, "Oh my God, look who it is!" And I'm thinking they must think I'm someone because I'm sitting up here. And then I turn behind me, and it's Ashton Kutcher walking right behind me.
Oh wow, crazy!
You mean it wasn't you?
They've seen the podcast.
That's sir. I have just a few quick questions to ask you, just to pick your brain.
Sure.
Okay. First one: who's your Mount Rushmore of comedy?
Oh, it's funny. I always point to Jamie Masada, the founder of the Laugh Factory, that if there was a Mount Rushmore of comedy, he would be on it, because he has helped the careers of everybody. There's so many top comedians, and the first thing they say is, if it wasn't for Jamie Masada giving me this opportunity. So he's not a comedian, but he's been one of the most significant figures in comedy history. Okay. And in fact, the first comedian ever to grace the stage at the Laugh Factory was Richard Pryor. And we were the home club for Rodney Dangerfield and George Carlin and, all of the greats. Even Sebastian Maniscalco used to be a waiter at the Four Seasons. And he used to come up, take his bow tie off, get on our stage as a young man. And now, he's really one of the top comedians in the world. love so many of them. Like, I am just so intrigued by how funny people, I literally can't believe how talented the people are that come into the Laugh Factory. We also do an open mic night every Tuesday at 5:30 for aspiring comics, and I go and I watch, and you're looking for that special moment where you're going to see somebody for the first time and know that they're going to be great. And it doesn't happen often, because a lot of what makes these folks great is stage time. But you're looking for something special, like a unique voice, a way that they word something. There's something about their physicality.
You hear what he just said? That experience is what makes you so great. That it's not really something you're born with, almost.
Well, some are.
Some are. Yeah.
There are some people that I see and I go, wow, they were just born to do this. It's so natural. They're so talented. They're so funny. And then there are others, you can tell it's this craft that they've worked on. But in order to make it at the Laugh Factory, to be on our stage, this is probably the toughest stage to make it onto in the world.
Wow.
And we have, the top of the top, the best of the best. And but they've all put in their 10,000 hours to get there.
What's one quote or advice that you live by?
Ooh, I don't know what comes to mind, but again, I always go back to, I can't say it's a quote, but I always try to be open-minded. You never know where the next great idea is going to come from. I always treat people very respectfully. If somebody comes with an idea, or if it's a new comedian and says they want to work at the Laugh Factory, I never shut people down, because I think that people, for me, always gave me the opportunity, or those that did, I remember. And I just think you need to treat people respectfully and know that even though they might not be ready today, that person is working so hard on whatever it is that they're doing, and they believe in themselves, and then you want to give them, the inspiration to continue. And be honest at the same time if something's not so great. Comedians are always asking me. I don't have a long history in comedy to be able to give good advice, but I do know now that you really need that unique voice, or I'll tell people something's just not that funny, we'll go and work on it. But I think just treating people properly, being respectful of people, and being open-minded, and showing up, being reliable and professional. That's a key part of it. There are people that are talented, but they're not reliable. And that goes a long way, as your professionalism in anything.
Right. You told a story about someone who practiced their speech for a big award show at the club. I don't know if you're okay talking about that.
Yeah, it's not their speech. It was Nikki Glaser last night hosted the Golden Globes. Last year she hosted the Golden Globes. She was so unbelievably professional. For the last several weeks, she's been coming to the Laugh Factory. And she's been working on her monologue and all the jokes that she performed on television. People think maybe she walks out there and looks at some cue cards and does a few jokes. But she put in so many hours at our club and other clubs where she listened to the audience, she made notes, she would come back the next night by tweaking the wording of a joke. And she put in a lot of hours and then walked out there and killed it last night. She was incredible.
And she did a Tom Brady roast with you.
Also, before the Tom Brady roast on HBO, she came in and she performed that for our audience. And I remember I thought it was too rough. I said, Nikki, I think you'd change a little of that. And she didn't listen to me, thankfully for her, because she went out there and she's now a big star.
That's incredible that she had the wherewithal to know not to listen, because the president of the Laugh Factory is giving her some advice, you might not want to say some of this stuff, and for me that would be very influential. I said maybe he's right, but she knows herself.
Yeah, I wasn't right, and in many cases there's no right or wrong. It's right. But no people right have to believe in their point of view, they believe in themselves and they know what works, and she's created a persona that people love.
Right.
She's super funny, and she's very professional, and she's a very nice person. And so people want to work with nice people,
right,
and who work hard. And she's a big success now, huge success.
It's huge. What's one book that you recommend or gift to others?
A book?
A book that you recommend others to read.
Well, I personally like to read a lot of business books, and so I don't read a whole lot of fiction.
Yeah, it can be a business book.
I mean, I'm just reading the Steve Jobs book right now, and it's very, very long, and it's been out for several years.
The Walter Isaacson.
Yeah. And I think it's a great book, and it talks a lot about launching products and believing in products and failures too. So that's a book that I would recommend.
That's on my list. It's a long. I heard it's a big book.
I was going to ask. We'll wrap up in a minute, but let's say your 30-year-old self who just moved to Hollywood was listening to this podcast right now. What would you want him to hear, or what type of advice do you think could have guided him through, or helped, or maybe said, "Don't worry about some things"?
Well, I mean, I think you have to have always a positive attitude. Mm-hmm. Like, people are always clouding your thinking with, the economy or AI or whatever it is. Like, and I try to always tune out the negativity and always have a positive attitude with whatever it is that I'm working on. I would always say that to somebody. I would say build relationships, like treat people properly. We've talked about this a little bit today, but your reputation, which my dad always said, protect your health and your reputation. Right. People want to work with people that treat them well. And so you want to be very respectful of relationships and build them at a high level if you can, be professional, like show up, do your research, like be prepared, always be prepared. Like when toy inventors would come to me with an idea, the first thing I would always say, well, did you Google it? Did you look at Amazon? And often like the thing is already out. Like it's a very simple thing. Be prepared with what you're doing. So, those are a few things that I would tell people. Right.
Was there anything you thought at 30 that turned out to not be true?
I don't know what that would be offhand, but I just if you believe in yourself and what you're doing, and just pursue that, right. But also be realistic. Like if something's not working, know when to call it quits. Like you have to just have enough good sense, a good judgment, and listen to other people, what other people are telling you, but know what sort of how to filter that advice, right? So like I cut out the negativity, but I also, like, if it's a game or if it's comedy or something, I let the audience tell me.
Right.
If I worked on a game, I would play test it, and I would, even though I thought the game was great, I would watch people play it and hear what they had to say. And same thing with comedy. I watched those open mic nights and I listened. Is the audience laughing or are they not laughing? So,
okay, we only three more questions, so we can wrap this. Do you think you're famous?
I am not famous, but I know a lot of people.
Okay, what's your definition of being famous?
Well, I don't know. Probably being known by the masses. I'm just known by the people that I've met.
Okay, fair. And what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Well, I'd like to think that for me, the most important thing at the end of the day is family and friends. And I love being around all the business success and movies and TV and games and toys and whatever. But, I'm just really blessed to have a great family and a great wife and a great extended family with Sam and others. And really, I think, at the end of the day, we take care of each other. And that's how I'll probably be remembered, hopefully, is that I treated everybody well that was in my orbit.
Love it.
That's what I would like to think.
Okay.
Sammy.
This was the We're Not Famous with Sam and Jernavis podcast with special guests.
But you're going to be famous because this is the greatest podcast.
Absolutely.
With our special guest, Donald Trump.
Yes. Every other podcast, they're doing badly, but you're doing so well.
He's messing with you, Sammy.
No, I would do it, but I'm not. I need to think about it. But this is the great.
This is the greatest.
This was episode 33.
33.
Big number. A master.
Same thing backwards.
33? Yes, for Uncle David, we had episode 33, a palindrome. Until next time, we'll wrap it up. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Wow.
David.